and welcome to the Oddity Archive, the show that'll wow and flutter you every time. And speaking of wow and flutter, it's time for another random batch of tapes, specifically audio cassettes. And I've got 7 tapes for us to get through today, so let's dive right in. And indeed, why don't we get that obligatory bit of voyeurism out of the way, right out of the gate? Now, this first tape is actually the sort of tape that I do not like finding out in the wild. I'm talking about those really overtly personal recordings that really shouldn't ever make it outside the family. And if for whatever reason the family wants to get rid of it, destroy it, just chuck it in the trash, but don't give it to the charity shop so I can find it. But anyway, today's first tape is labeled as Memories Audrey Original. And initially I thought that this was maybe something that some kid had to record for a school project or something, but as it turned out, this tape was 100% unsolicited, and the bulk of this tape is just of Audrey spinning amusing to her tales of her life. And I'd be willing to bet that Audrey was probably in her 70s at the time, and every tape I've encountered of this brand and design dates to sometime between 1985 and 90. And there's no dates mentioned on here, but I'd be willing to bet that this is from somewhere in that period. And as such, Audrey is probably no longer with us. But anyway, Audrey is this old Midwestern country gal, and she seems nice. I didn't get any bad vibes listening to this. But given the generation and upbringing, our more city slicker and more politically correct viewers might not appreciate this too much. In fact, you might actually want to skip this segment. But for people like me who have a lot of rural relatives, this was kind of a vicarious walk down memory lane for me. It took me back to when I was growing up and being around some of my more farm relatives, a lot of which are no longer with us, and hearing them tell those distinctly funky Depression-era stories. And so, yeah, on the one hand, it was kind of nice to find this, but on the other, it ticks me off even more that I found this.
Hello. I was just sitting around thinking about my past, and I thought maybe you guys would be interested in hearing some of the things that happened over my lifetime. So I'm making a tape. She was uneducated, but a loving, hard-working mother. And what a sense of humor. Always pulling tricks on us and the neighbors, and always pulling her country one-liners. I remember one time rumors were going around the neighborhood. Now you have to remember, our neighbors were a quarter to a half a mile apart. And I don't know how gossip travels so fast, but it did. Anyhow, rumors were going around the neighborhood that there was a bomb that was hanging around and attacking women. So all the women were really scared. Well, Mom got it in her head to pull this little prank. So she got some soot from the stove, and blacked her face, and dressed up in some old clothes of my brother's, got a big stick, and walked down to our closest neighbors. She knew that the man of the house was away working, but the woman and her mother were there. Well, she went knocking up the door, and the women saw her out the window, and the younger woman grabbed a gun and came to the door and was about ready to shoot my mom. Mom like to never made her understand that it was she in disguise, but at last they knew, and she didn't get shot. So she said one day he'd been frog hunting, and he got home, and his wife was fixing the frog legs in the frying pan, and he heard this big squawk. And he went to the door, and there sat one of those big frogs asking him, "Where's my legs? Where's my legs?" Well, Mom used to tell us that story at night, and me and Eula always begged her to tell us, even though it scared us to death. She raised vegetables in the garden, canned everything, And at one point she managed to get a cow, so we had milk and butter for that period. She also raised chickens, and my brothers hunted, so we had squirrel or rabbit at times. Otherwise, our diet consisted mostly of soup beans, cornbread, gravy, and biscuits. Mom never used a recipe and was a superb cook, considering she had so little to cook with. A weasel got into a bunch of our baby chicks one time, and weasels bite little chicks in the head and then leave them, and they usually bleed to death. But we rescued this one little one, and I doctored it, took care of it, and it got its health back, but it always walked sideways and its head shook. So I called it Doddle, and it really became a pet of mine. And that chicken, although it had a head injury, was smart enough that it always knew the time for my school bus to come home and would always be waiting down the road for me. And in the morning when I walked down to the bus, Doddle always followed me down there. And I loved that chicken so very much. That was my pet. Well, I didn't realize it, but one day when I came home from school, Doddle wasn't there. And I really hadn't missed him. I was probably excited about something else. And we had supper, and we had chicken. And after supper, I went outside, started looking for Doddle. Couldn't find Doddle. Come back in and asked Mom where Doddle was. And she says, we just ate him. Well, you can imagine the shock. I don't think I ever really forgave Mom for letting me eat my little special pet.
I was concerned that I had made a nice boo-boo in picking up this next tape, in that the cassette itself is labeled as being from 1976, but it still had the record tabs in it, and, things have a way of getting recorded over or just simply erased, but thankfully my fears with this tape were unfounded. This is indeed from 76, or at least it seems to be, and not only that, it's unedited. It's, aside from the part where the original recorder had to turn the tape over, it just runs straight through. But what this is, it's from Japan, and it somehow found its way here. I guess somebody moved here. But it's an exceptionally good direct feed off-air TV recording from the NHK network, the big Japanese TV network. And honestly, that's about all I can really pin down on this one, largely because I don't speak a word of Japanese. But here's what I think is going on. I think this is either a recording of a variety show or some sort of talent show, and either way, given that it's Japanese TV, it's a little on the quirky side. But despite the language barrier, I did actually learn one thing from this tape, and that is that apparently Japanese country music was and maybe still is a thing. But aside from that, given the language barrier, if you happen to speak the language, feel free to fill me in the comments.
第27回 NHK 紅白歌合戦。
我らがキャプテン相良直美さん。
年は何としても勝ちたいと3年連続赤組の司会を務める相良直美さん、張り切って女性陣をリードしております。おや、華やかな応援ダンスが始まりました。スクールメイツの皆さんでございます。NHK では7台のカメラと110本のマイクロフォンを使いまして、この紅白歌合戦の模様を全国の皆さん、そして衛星中継で海外の皆さんにもご覧いただいております。
よー、さて次に西川美奈子船長迎えのポーズ。続いて第4球を慎重な草刈り、第4球を投げた、打った、ほーっと伸びたラット伸びたホームラン。さて白組戸部白球、見事王選手ありがとうございました。どうもありがとう。大貞治選手でした。ありがとうございました。Welcome to Japan and welcome to Kohaku Utagassen.
Thank you very much. Akagumi Gambare.
Thank you very much. And
I'd like to present you with this sleigh from Hawaii.
Thank you very much. ハワイから礼をいただけるそうです。どうもありがとうございます。Thank you very much.
I've got 2 homemade albums to go over today, and I'm not going to do them back to back, just in the name of pacing. But anyway, this first one comes to us from right here in beautiful downtown Aurora, and it is the apparent only musical statement from one Ronald G. Zarati, or maybe Zarati Jr., and there's no date on here, and there's really no useful information on here at all. But given the fashions, the photography style, the kind of printer paper style, the font, and the fact that I used a lot of these particular TDK tapes back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I'm gonna pin this one to about 1999. Now, this album is all solo acoustic stuff, and a good chunk of it is religious, and perhaps unsurprisingly, it's a little on the joyless side. But as for Zarati himself, I'm just going to use that pronunciation generically, he is, shall we say, a rather utilitarian guitar player. So much so that the tracks have a way of seriously running together. So, to prove my point, here are just the first 2 to 4 seconds apiece of 13 out of the 16 tracks on here. The other 3 don't have intros, so they don't really count. Now, as I already mentioned, a good chunk of this album is religious, specifically Christian, but there are a handful of 70s and 80s pop standard sort of covers on here. And in the name of familiarity, I'm gonna just stick with the pop tunes here. And I should also say, in the name of full disclosure, this montage is going to feel a lot longer than it really is.
Love, soft as an easy chair, love, fresh as the morning air. One love that is shared by two, I have found with you. Did you ever know that you're my hero, and everything I would like to be? I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I'll dry them all. I will ease your mind like a bridge over troubled water. I will ease your mind.
I was a little reluctant to include this next tape in today's episode, partly because it's a pretty dry listen, and partly because the sound quality is really poor. But given how often we talk about old home video formats around here, it seemed only right to include this as a bit of home video history. So what I've got here is a recording of a 1982 focus group meeting, and it's with a bunch of fairly early home video adopters, and strictly in the VHS and beta sense. And they're just talking about their personal experiences with home video up until that point, and their recording habits, and what they like to see in terms of products and marketing. But having said that, these people are not AV geeks in the slightest. So if you've got a thing for technical jargon and just understanding of video stuff, you're not going to get it here, and you might get a little frustrated. But anyway, this tape was recorded by an employee of BASF, or as I like to call them, BASF, on BASF tape no less. And obviously it was to take back to the company and tweak their marketing, basically. And I should note that this tape was recorded in Boston, and the accents are there, and they're a little thick. And add to that the crappy recording quality, and all I can say is I've done my best to make this listenable, but you might still want to dig out the old headphones for this one.
August 8th, 1982, BASF, 8 o'clock session. Okay.
Braverman. I'm with our research company out of New York. We're here tonight to talk about videotaping equipment, both the hardware and tapes.
I have a Sony Betamax, and it was a gift. I don't know if I would have afforded myself such a lavish gift. The kinds of things I tape are TV specials. Basically TV specials. I don't do a whole lot of taping. I like to play movies. And with my Sony, I was given about 24 movie cassettes, so I've been very busy watching movies.
When you tape something, do you generally save it, or do you tape just to watch it that one time and then re-record it?
I usually watch it once. I've also only had it for about 6 months, so I watch it once and put it away. I don't think I re-record it over anything, but I also don't do a whole lot of reruns on my own tapes.
Jim?
I've got an RCA Selective Vision. I've had it for about 3 years now. The main reason why I use it is to tape late night things, which I don't want to stay up for. David Letterman is like my favorite show now, and I can't handle staying up till 1:30 in the morning to watch it. So I just tape it, watch it the next day. And usually I've got about 6 tapes filled with David Letterman shows, and then about 6 others which I use for movies or whatever. And I just keep on repeating over, you know, so I have backloads of certain shows.
Linda, how about you?
I have a 3-minute beta, and it's basically how we record a few children programs, specials, and I haven't done much recording with it, but I hope to join one of the clubs to try and get going with it. The few things that I have recorded basically with children's programs.
Pictures are right, except it's got the bend in the top of it all the time, which is sort of frustrating. I can't remember what that's called when that happens. The top of the screen sort of slides over to the right.
Does anyone know a phrase to describe that?
Fluttering looking, I don't know. I know what he means. It's wiggly. The whole picture looks like a snake or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What Super Avalon is.
I'm not too sure what Super Avalon is, but I do buy TDK audio tapes, and they've got the SA C90 tapes, which is what I always buy. And I think SA stands for Super Avalon, and therefore I would expect that since the SA audio tapes are good, then I'd definitely go for the TDK video tapes.
Well, it says Chrome video cassette. No, that confuses me. I don't know what the word Chrome means. You know, I don't know if it's. I might shy away from it because I don't know the word what Chrome means. Would that fit in my recorder or what? I wouldn't, you know.
Does anyone know what the word Chrome means? All right, I want to thank you for helping me quite a bit tonight. You've been really helpful in communicating, in this particular case, kind of what you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you leave the questionnaires on the desk, I'd appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Today's second and final homemade album comes to us from 1994 and is from Redwood City, California. And unsurprisingly, given the location, it's a hippie album. And it's also what's on the box today. Here it is. And on the spine, it's got the Greek word Calliste E on it, in full-on Greek lettering no less, which translates to beauty. But then old language-impaired Benny Boy got confused, and on the tape, it's got the same word, but it looks like Kamidi, given the handwriting, which I looked it up, and it's a Polish name. And if you dig deeper into the artwork, there's a credit to one Christian Ieni here, so I'm guessing that Calliste E was intended to be the name of the album and the work, and maybe an artist's name. And this album kind of follows in the footsteps of those 70s prog rock album-length instrumental opuses like Tubular Bells or, better yet, Oxygen. And the album is really just a series of these very labored, self-consciously trippy, slowly drifting soundscapes that never really seem to develop, punctuated by a ton of TV and radio excerpts, a lot of which run long enough that I'd probably take a copyright hit or 10 from letting them run too long. Now, this album does actually have a concept to it, and that would be save the planet, which is nice, but when it takes you until the last 10 minutes of your hour-plus album to arrive at that conclusion, you really just don't care anymore.
What you're about to watch is a nightmare.
You know, there's a theory that we're all Atlanteans. Us, San Franciscans. You want to hear it, or are you going to get stuffed up?
Cameraman John Short went to the trainer home and using professional equipment shot this image of the UFO.
It was definitely odd and probably the weirdest thing I've ever, covered as far as a story. Basically in part because I couldn't describe it. Didn't have an answer for these people what it might be.
Deus Ex Machina, which is the God machine, okay? In case we can't think of anything, way to end the play, I'm going to lower you down, okay? It's kind of a big production ending, all right?
What the United States would look like between 1998 and 2001. So the new West Coast will be in the area of Nebraska, down through Boulder and Denver, through this area is the new West Coast. And California has become a series of islands. The worst places is wherever you are when something like this explodes.
Seems to me that someone here on this base wants me declared mentally incompetent.
Never a peaceful moment in the music business.
Man, this has been an exciting trip.
And fun, too.
The last time I did a Random Cassettes episode, I spotlighted this tape from AT&T, which was full of these cheesy little musical jingles that you were supposed to use as answering machine greetings. And since then, I have found 2 more tapes worth of answering machine greetings. But thankfully, these are not musical. But this is what we're gonna close on today. Anyway, both of these tapes come from a series called Phonies, which ran from probably the mid-late 70s through the late 80s, and the name having a double meaning, so talking on the phone, but also phony as in fake, as in these are tapes full of impressions of famous people delivering some especially corny answering machine greetings. But anyway, this first tape is just generically called Classic Movie Stars, and the voice talent, the real voice talent, is not credited. But it hits a lot of the usual targets like Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn, and there's also this really out of left field Richard Pryor on here, which stands out in more than one way. And then the other tape, well, So We Meet Again, Rich Little. Anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play the intros to both of these tapes, and then we're going to play a nice extended game of Name That Impression. And that's something I actually did very poorly at, which is especially sad given I've got the answers right here.
Thanks for buying Phonies, and now here's how to use it to your best advantage. First, using any standard cassette player, listen to the Phonies voices and choose one. Then, 3 seconds before each voice, there is a cueing chime. Now this indicates that you have 3 seconds before the Phonies voice starts. Then in a quiet place, record your Phonies voice from the cassette player's speaker into the answering machine's microphone. Transfer the voice first, then if you like, put your own voice behind it. This way, people will know that they have reached you and not the wrong number. It's easy.
Hi, everybody. This is Rich Little. I'm sure you will enjoy using Phonies on your answering machine as much as I've enjoyed doing them for you. The voices on this tape have been specially prepared to get you more messages. And now here's how to use them to best advantage. 3 seconds before each voice, there's a cueing chime. Now this indicates that you have 3 seconds before the Phonies voice starts.
Now in a quiet place, record your Phonies voice from the cassette player's speaker into the answering machine's microphone. Now you can personalize your tapes in several ways, either by inserting your voice before or after the Phonies voice. Now this way your friends will know that they have reached you and not a wrong number.
Just remember, Phonies will work on all types of answering machines, single cassette or loop, regardless of the make and age of the machine. Toupees are not recommended.
The master of this house is not at home, fortunately, and the mistress and I aren't available either, so whatever you do, don't mention I was here. You can speak discreetly after the tone, and for heaven's sakes, leave us alone. Bernice, Bernice, my darling Bernice.
You people are something, you know that? You phone when there's no one here, and when they are here, you don't phone. So leave a message, you understand me? A message. If they get back to you, great. If they don't, who cares? You are nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing, 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 nothing.
Why, those bilious bastards. The whole world at war, and I'm left out of it? Stuck here answering the goddamn phone? Well, by God, you'd better leave a message when you hear the beep. Only a coward hangs up. So get on with it, soldier. And that's an order.
Your friends are fed up that they aren't getting any messages. Well, frankly, I don't give a damn, because I'm getting all I can handle, but they aren't. That's why they got this answering machine and me to record on it. Well, that's all I've got to say. The rest is up to you, sweetheart. I'm off to Atlanta to a barbecue. Come on, Scarlett.
Hello, I'm not answering this phone now because I'm really not prepared for any kind of intimate contact. So if you leave your name and number, it'll be okay. You see, I've got this neurotic thing about phones. It's got something to do with the shape of the receiver.
Say, John, what you doing on my phone, boy? Trying to leave me a message when I'm not home? Go ahead, leave your name. But you better send me a dime. You expect me to call you back?
I'm answering this phone for my friend who tells me it's your nature to hang up and not leave a message. but I should remind you that nature is what we are put on this earth to rise above. So please, leave a message at the sound of the beep, for the sake of anthropology.
Well, I can't come to the phone right now because I'm busy on my golden pond. Oh, this is so humiliating, talking into a machine. Well, anyway, just leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you. You won't poop.
Hello. I want to be president. I want to be senator. I want to be a Republican. I want to be a Democrat. I want to be a movie star. I want to be a mother. I want to be a rightist, a leftist. I want to be a woman. I want to be a man. I want your message.
Hi, how are you? This is God. I hope you know me. Of course I know you, and I know what you want to say, 'cause I am God. However, the person who owns this machine doesn't. So leave your message at the tone. But first, a few bars of my new hit single, Sally Brown Went to Town.
Gosh, what a bummer. There's no one available at the moment. But listen, if you leave me your name and your number, I'll see to it personally that they get back to you. Of course, if there's money in it, I'll get back to you.
Well, that's it for today's archive. Join me next time when I belatedly find out that that Japanese tape that I played earlier is actually tremendously filthy. And I'm fighting to get my channel back.
For further information, or if you would like to receive our Phonies catalog listing all of our voices, contact Phonies, Box 2110, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, 08003. And thank you.